to the achievement of any legitimate governmental interest. Well, as I say, if you use that as a criteria for determining what is and what is not appropriate in terms of the state governing the relationships between men and women, then how can you possibly say that it has the ability to restrict marriage to just a man and a woman? What's wrong with, why would this not apply to any sort of law that, or to any arrangement whatsoever? Bigamy, polygamy, incest, all of those things, could, any law against those particular activities or those particular arrangements could be struck down on this same basis, using exactly the same rationale. And that's what's disconcerting, I think, the most disconcerting about this. That could happen. And it goes to show you that we cannot, I mean, it really, in a way, it's a good thing that this happened, because it does draw attention to the fact that some action is probably necessary at the federal level, a constitutional amendment. Because some judge somewhere is going to do exactly the same thing. And it could happen tomorrow, it could happen any place. And it will go to a Supreme Court. We are one vote away from having these laws against polygamy, against homosexual marriage and all the rest overturned. And again, it's, I have no quarrel with, and I would not try to intercede. I'm not saying that, I'm not making any moral judgments here. I mean, I have my own opinion about the issue, but it's not relevant. And I don't believe the federal government or any state government has any right to tell anybody anything about who they care about. That's not the government's role or responsibility. And I would certainly fight to make sure that that was not something the government got involved in. That's not what's happening here. This is another aspect of judicial activism, perhaps the most blatant we've seen recently, and something that has to be dealt with, or else, of course, what's the whole purpose of having the process that goes on behind us here in the state legislature? It's all meaningless if you can use the rationale of Judge Hanson. So I hope,
Congressman, you haven't answered the question about civil unions. You went all over the place, but you didn't answer the question.
I was just, again, referring to what I said about it in the state. But my opinion on civil unions, I would not support them in the state of Colorado. And I think that they are, again, set up as the first step in a process leading toward this thing.
What would you say to those folks who say the spirit and tradition of the Constitution and its amendments is to limit the rights of big government and expand the rights of the people?
Well, I agree that the federal government, the federal Constitution is a limiting document, absolutely. And that there is a way to change it where it seems to be needed, where there is a perceived need for change in that Constitution, where it has to be expanded or contracted. There is a process. It's an amendment process. Judges are not here for that. They're not here to change the Constitution. The Constitution limits them likewise, not just the government itself, not just the Congress of the United States. But we see that there is this power imbalance, I think, that is apparent here in these kinds of decisions. As I said in my statement, it's amazing in a way that we have to debate this. It's amazing that it has become a matter of national concern, because the society is more often determined, the value of it, or the cultural norms are determined oftentimes not by what is debated, because there's no question, there's no issue. But now it's there, it's percolated up. And so if the Constitution needs to be changed, and in this case it apparently may need to be as a result of the actions taken by this judge, then there's a way to do it. It's an amendment process. And that's what I propose.
Your statement that no legislature has passed a marriage bill isn't right. California did, but Schwarzenegger vetoed it. But I kind of have a follow-up question on civil unions. The reason gay people, gay and lesbians, push for marriage is so they can protect their loved ones.
Protected from what?
And there's a life and death story from Seattle that explains it well. There was flooding in the city. Mudwaters and flood came in, trapped a woman in her basement office where she proceeded to drown. The workers got in, got her out, whisked her to the hospital. where she was conscious for a short period of time. Her spouse, her same-sex spouse, her domestic partner, or whatever you choose to call her, was not allowed in to have a final communication with her partner of years and years and years, because federal law prohibits hospitals from letting unrelated people into the room. And so my question is,
That's not true.
It
That's
is
not true.
without permission.
I've worked in a trauma center. That's not true.
Okay, so my question is,
I'll
my
tell you,
question
if there
is,
is- if there
my
is-
question
if there
is,
is any
do you
purpose-
support
if there is any
gays and
purpose-
lesbians, a national law that would allow gays and lesbians
If
to
there
be
is a purpose
able
for such a law,
to
fine. If there,
make
you can tell
healthcare
me, if
decisions
you
for
can-
their partners,
Yeah,
because without a federal or a state law, in situations that are emergencies, you're not going to be able to recover the papers. In this situation, the papers were in there,
Tell you
and
what.
she was never allowed
It's got nothing to do
to
with
say
marriage.
goodbye to her spouse.
It's got nothing to do with the issue we're dealing with here. The issue of
Marriage is all about protecting one's
And
spouse.
I'm telling you that if there is a provision somewhere, anywhere, that restricts the ability for someone to be with their loved one at the time of need, I would be happy to deal with that. If it's a federal statute you want dealt with, I'd be happy to do so. I have to tell you that most of the cases of which I am aware, it does not apply. So if that is the case, certainly I'm happy to deal with it.
HIPAA
But
applies to
it's got
unrelated
nothing.
people.
But it's got
HIPAA,
nothing to
HIPAA.
do. It's got nothing to do with the issue of marriage.
It has
Homosexual
everything
marriage.
to do with marriage. It's why
As I
gay
say.
people push for marriage. They want to protect their loved ones.
Okay.
And what Judge Hanson said was there is no rational relationship to a state interest in preventing gays from being married. Their children deserve the same protections of children of heterosexuals. It's all about people protecting each other, their spouses, and their kids.
I think
and
that
I'm
is
sorry, but I think it's outrageous for a politician to come in here and try to tell the Iowa courts what they should do. I think you're the one that's out of line.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't believe for a moment that those protections are not afforded by a myriad of laws that we have on the books today.
Then you're
Protections
ignorant.
well, you state that these protections are not there. I'm telling you that they are, and I'm telling you
The
that
woman
the
wasn't
issue of
under
marriage.
It's
attack.
something anecdotal. You can't prove it.
The Washington legislature passed
At
a
any
law,
rate, any other
healthcare
questions?
law, specifically
You
because
can't
of
prove
this situation.
Congressman, what's this? The constitutional amendment proposed by a couple of Colorados, Wayne Allard,
Yeah.
hasn't been going anywhere. It doesn't have the 2/3 majorities that it needs.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's just it. I mean, the fact is that this event here, this decision by this judge, is what should spur that along. It seems to me, and the reason I'm here, whether you like it or not. I mean, I have an absolute right to be here and voice my concerns about this. You can discount them. It's totally up to you. I couldn't care less. But the reality of the situation is, I believe that this is something that is a perfect. It's a perfect explanation of what happened here. Judge Hanson's decision. It's a perfect explanation as to why we need to move ahead on that amendment. So maybe this will spur it along.
and are you bringing this issue up? I mean, you kind of have a reputation on the campaign trail as being a one-issue candidate. Are you bringing this issue up to highlight that you're not a
Well,
one-issue?
we could also talk about illegal immigration here if you'd like. It's fine. But in this case, Judge Hanson's decision didn't have anything to do with it. That's not the purpose. But I'm happy to talk about that. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.